With Yu Yu Hakusho Dark Tournament releasing in just over a month, it has been announced that 35 cards from Yu Yu Hakusho Set 1 will be reprinted and will be legal in standard competitive formats. I am going to be reviewing every single Set 1 Yu Yu Hakusho card and talking about the 35 cards that I would like to see printed. This is going to be a two-part video. I will be reviewing 21 cards today and the remainder of the cards over the weekend. Before we jump into the cards, let's just review the details of Dark Tournament. It's going to release February 23rd, and it will be a 154 card set with 6 secret rares, basically 160 cards. And it will replace My Hero Academia Set 1 in standard competitive formats. It's going to include 40 reprints from Yu Yu Hakusho Set 1. 35 of these reprints will be time-shifted standard cards, meaning they're legal to play today, and their set logo will update to the Dark Tournament set logo. 5 of these will be right to retro cards. Their set logo will not update, so you will know the difference, and these will be legal only in retro formats. And then there's going to be 1 reprinted card per pack as a 12th card, meaning that each of these reprints is basically going to have the rarity of like equal to a normal rare in the base set. Meaning that we are getting 195 cards introduced to standard with this booster set. So I see a lot of players right now testing without set 1 cards to get ready for rotation. And in my opinion, that's a mistake because I don't think we really can be ready. We are getting 42 cards released just in January from the Challenger decks, 195 cards in Yu Yu Hakusho Dark Tournament. We're getting the Critical Role Challenger decks in March. You know, in 2 months' time, the game and the meta are going to feel completely different from what we are playing today. So I don't think that there's really any getting ready for this as a player, only just keeping up with the reveal season once it starts and immediately trying to, get practice on like Tabletop Simulator. Okay, UVS Games appears very confident in the Yu Yu Hakusho sealed and draft formats. Remember, there's 195 cards here, and they're going to be doing these release events, Dark Tournament, sealed play. If you win, you go to the Wish tournament where you have to play a Yu Yu Hakusho character, and then the winner is going to be able to like design a card. They're going to be giving out like custom chrome rares. And then in the April regional in Las Vegas, Yu Yu Hakusho Dark Tournament draft will be part of the Swiss rounds. So I imagine that 3 rounds of Swiss will be draft. And UVS Games seems really, really confident in this. Again, it's going to be a massive set. This is the biggest set since My Hero Academia Set 1. It might even be bigger. So we're not really going to feel Set 1 of MHA rotating all that hard as a competitive player because it's immediately going to be replaced by this massive Yu Yu Hakusho set. Okay, here's an example of time-shifted cards for standard play. Here's what I'm talking about with the set logo. You can see the old set logo and then it's shifted to the new one. And the card format is going to shift to the new card layouts, which in my opinion look a lot better than before. You can really see it here. Here, like this card title was getting in the way of the art. Now we can see the sword going through all of the beasts. It feels, the art feels a little more crisp and the layout is just more pleasing to the eye in my opinion. And then, everything is the exact same. So even though safe is not in the current game at the moment, they are still keeping safe on the card. And we don't exactly know what that means. Is the definition of the keyword safe going to change? Are they going to keep it as before? Or is it just simply there so that players can play with their old cards in the new standard competitive format? We're just not sure. But this is an example of a time-shifted reprint. And then a right to retro reprint will look like this. They're clearly going a little more over the top with the new design, but the set logo stays the same. So there's the old Yu Yu Hakusho logo, and you can see the new Yu Yu Hakusho logo. So when you open a card that has this, it means that it is not legal in standard competitive play and only in retro formats. There's only going to be 5 of those. So which 35 Yu Yu Hakusho Set 1 cards should get reprinted in standard? Now, Yu Yu Hakusho Set 1 was only 81 cards, which means that 43% of the set is getting reprinted now. Yu Yu Hakusho Set 1 is basically half the size of what the Dark Tournament set will be. Let's first narrow down the possibilities before we just look at all of the cards. Set 1 had a lot of legacy mechanics, and let's just go ahead and assume that most of those mechanics are not coming back. Although, in the first form video when this was announced, Levi said, quote, "Look forward to some of the exciting new mechanics and keywords of old that these cards will be bringing to the modern era." And they showed us a time-shifted standard reprint that had the safe keyword. So we really don't know what is coming back and what is not coming back. So I'm going to be pretty lenient with what I'm still looking at, and I'm only going to narrow down the possibilities from what we know for sure will not be coming back, at least in my opinion. Let's go ahead and eliminate the characters. This is going to eliminate 8 cards. And, I could maybe see them bringing back a character, especially if they don't have a big role in the Dark Tournament saga as they did in the previous saga. But I imagine we're just getting a new Kurama and Hiei and Kuwabara and Botan. Like, I imagine we're getting all of these just as new character cards. So I'm going to go ahead and eliminate these. Also, a lot of these have been like Rando is now changed into... I forgot his name, but he was in the Undaunted Raid. He was one of the 8 bullets, but he has a very similar character design. Hiei feels a little bit like Mr. Compressed to me. So they've already sort of reprinted these characters just with different kind of designs. Okay, the gauge mechanic. Let's go ahead and eliminate this. The gauge mechanic was like, okay, I can't remember quite, but it was like if it deals X damage, and then X would equal the number. So like here it says gauge 4. Then you can build in a character from like your discard pile into your staging area. And I just don't think that they're ever going to go back to this mechanic of building characters from your discard pile. I don't think it's coming back. Let's go ahead and eliminate the multiple mechanic. This is only going to eliminate 2 attacks in set 1 of Yu Yu Hakusho. But multiple was like the old retro version of Echo. And to me, I think Echo is probably just a better version of multiple. I don't see really anybody complaining about the Echo mechanic. I think we all really like it. So multiple, let's just go ahead and say that that mechanic is forever banished to retro. Okay, what about reversals? Well, there's 8 of them, but I'm not ready to eliminate them yet. Here's an example of a reversal deflection swing. You can see the reversal keyword right there. And the reason I'm not ready to eliminate them is because Sword Get Longer had the safe keyword and they're reprinting it. So I don't know what this means. Are they going to change the definition of safe? Like they could change it to like, this attack cannot be breakered, or this attack cannot leave your card pool due to rival effects. I don't know, something along those lines. I don't think so. I don't think they would have a different definition for the same keyword. Like we saw, multiple got replaced with Echo. That makes a lot more sense to transition the keyword. Maybe it's just here to allow players to play with their old cards. But that seems like it's going to be confusing to new players for me. And so I think there's a chance, I don't think a big chance, maybe 10%, 20%, that reversals are coming back. If I had to put a percentage on it, I would say 10%. I'm 10% convinced that reversals are coming back. So I'm not going to eliminate them. Let's just look at them, and I'll give you some examples of reversals that I would like to see come back into the game, and other reversals that I would like to not see come back into the game. Okay, how about cards with no blocks? Well, there's 10 in set 1, but I'm not ready to eliminate them yet. These are Yu Yu Hakusho set 1 cards that don't have a block modifier up here. Before the days of My Hero Academia, there were cards printed with no blocks that you just weren't allowed to block with. Typically, they were cards deemed very, very powerful. At least from reading these cards, that's how it seems. But I'm not going to eliminate them because we already have precedent for cards getting reprinted word for word, but just adding the block zone, right? We have Hacker Extraordinaire. As far as I can tell, this is word for word the same. It's got the same symbols and everything. Still checks a 4, still a 2-diff. This is the Plus Ultra Jet Burn card. But now we've added this 4-high block. As a practical matter, nobody's going to be blocking with a 4-high block modifier. But just to keep things simple from a design perspective, they're putting block modifiers on all their cards today. So I could see the same thing happening, which seems a little weird because why would they print a blank safe keyword, but then add on the block modifier to where you couldn't use your old cards without the block modifier? I'm not exactly sure. I don't have all the details yet. I just know I'm not ready to eliminate them quite yet. Let's still talk about them. Okay, so 18 cards have been eliminated from contention. That means 63 cards remain. Let's look through all 63 and discuss which 35 should come back. Again, I'm going to do 21 cards today. I will do the remaining 42 cards in another video, but on that video, I'll kind of skip the intro and we'll just get straight into the cards. Okay, first off, let's just look at some cool attacks. 5 diff, Hiei attack, 16 instant slashes. It's a fury weapon, 5 mid 5, Hiei enhance. If you have exactly 16 cards in your discard pile, this attack is unblockable. Okay, that's a little silly to me. I get that it's a flavor win, 16 instant slashes. Who is really going to be manipulating their discard pile so much to make this happen? Maybe, I guess, if you perfectly timed it out, if you said, okay, I've got 12, so I need to play instant slashes as my 4th attack. It's interesting. It's a little silly to me. I don't mind it, though. The main part of this attack are these 2 first enhances. So you have to pick one. You're not going to be able to do both. First enhance, this attack is +1 speed and +1 damage for each of your momentum, or your next check to play an attack, it's +X, X equals your momentum. I really like this idea of I could either play this as a setup move, or I could play this as a finishing move. I get to choose whether I want this attack to get big stats, or whether I'm just playing this and then I'm going to set up my next big attack. And it has the chaos symbol, which shares with Amajiki. Could you imagine Amajiki playing this and just saying, hey, +7/+7, there you go. 12 mid 12. That seems pretty awesome. I'm going to certify, this card to me is certified fresh. Let's go ahead and reprint it. It seems like a lot of fun, even if it's a little bit silly. Okay, 5 diff, Ice Dragon Seiryu. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Seiryu. 4 high 5, 1 high block, punch ranged, stun 3. And bottom enhance, freeze all foundations committed due to this attack's stun ability. So you are stunning and freezing 3 rival foundations. That's crazy. And it says discard a momentum. Your next check is +1 for each of your opponent's committed foundations. So if your opponent's committed out, just discard a momentum. You're going to get +9 to your next check. This card seems way too powerful. It is a 2 check, but still, this is crazy to me. Stun and freeze 3. I'm going to get a bajillion to my next check and play whatever I like. I'm going to go ahead and give this a splat, whatever they call this on the Rotten Tomatoes. This is just too powerful for me to come back into the game. I think this was made for a era that we have now passed. Okay, let's look at an asset that I would like to see come back. Spiritual Shooting Ring. 2 div, 5 check, unique. Commit flip. Your opponent adds the top card of their discard pile to their card pool. Remove double this ranged attack's damage. This one is certified fresh. Now, with set 1 rotating in My Hero Academia, we will be saying goodbye to Sticky Balls. The flip, add the top card of your rival's discard pile to their card pool. And I like the idea of this being on water and getting to do the same thing. It's a commit flip cost, which means that you're going to commit this asset, flip it, and then it's going to be considered a foundation, which could put you into deadlock. So that is a huge cost. But removing double this ranged attacks damage, notice it doesn't say non-throw ranged attacks damage. It could just be a ranged throw. I'm not sure how many of those we will have left after set 1 rotating, but who knows? We could be getting more ranged throws. We'll just have to see. Okay, 2 diff, Maze Castle. Now this one, I'm just going to say it. I don't want to see it again because we've already had this reprinted. This is Twisty Surroundings. Discard 1 momentum, change the zone of this attack, playable by either player. Commit after your opponent makes a check to play an attack, it's -2. This is just Twisty Surroundings, although this 0 mid block is crazy to me. I think Twisty is a 2 mid block, right? Yeah, I'm not sure why they would give this a 0 mid block. This just seems like a very, very strong card. But again, we already have it. There's no need to reprint it again. Okay, let's move to actions. The Dark Tournament looms. This was given to everybody in Yu Yu Hakusho set 1 when you bought a booster box. It would just be floating on top of the packs. Remove, add 1 card from your momentum to your hand, draw 1 card. So this replaces itself and gets you a card from your momentum. If you don't have any momentum, all it's going to do is replace itself. This could be used on offense to go and pick up an attack. It could be used on defense to go and pick up a block, or you could just use it as a block. It's a 2 mid block. Could come in handy when you really need it. I think this is certified fresh. I like this idea of adding a momentum to your hand, going ahead and removing it. It might be a little too powerful in the current format, but that's okay. I like it. I like the idea of, hey, and now you can look at your momentum, which just makes this action much, much better. Like, hey, I'm going to go grab that breaker 2 block that I put in here and block with that. Or I'm going to go grab that finishing move that I needed. Okay, 3 diff, Koenma's Task, 2 mid block, and this is just a block of text. Bear with me here, I'm going to read it fast. Remove, name a card, search your deck for all copies of the named card and add them to your hand. Then name another card, search your opponent's deck for all copies of the named card, and remove them. Only playable if there's at least 1 copy of Koenma's Task in both your discard pile and removed from game pile. So you're just going to say, hey, I'm going to grab all of this card, and I'm going to remove all of this card from your deck. Now, it is only from your deck, not from the discard piles, not from the staging area, not from the hand. So it's better played, when both players' decks have a pretty sizable amount. And it's only playable if 1 copy's in the remove from game and 1 copy's in the discard pile. So that's kind of gating it to not be able to happen early. And it has this response remove after your opponent plays an action cards, cancel its effect, which is also going to feed into its top form. I thought this was pretty fascinating, but when I talked to other players in the main Discord, they said that it was very limiting to design because a lot of decks were kind of breaking this by finding ways to very quickly remove one and then have one in your discard, and then that top form is just super, super powerful. But that's not the reason that I'm going to say don't reprint this card. The reason I'm going to say is just because that's too much text. That's too much text, and just like a block there, whenever I see that, my brain goes fuzzy and I have trouble keeping up with it. So that's why I'm going to say go away. I don't know of a lot of different ways to remove it very quickly from the game like there were in retro times past. Okay, let's look at some 0 diffs. Voice of Reason, 2 mid block, once per turn, both players discard 1 card and draw 1 card. Yeah, I really like this and I want this in. Now with My Hero Academia Set 1 leaving standard format, a lot of the best 0 difficulty foundations are also leaving. And that's for good reason. The MHA Set 1 0 difficulty foundations were just broken. Release, tight-lipped, it can't be fixed. I think we're all going to be pretty happy to see these leave the format. Now we're getting a lot of 0 difficulty foundations that are like pretty much blank. Like we've got that Cowboy Bebop one that checks a 6. It's a 0 low block, but if you block with it, you lose the health. We've got that Ryukyu 0 diff foundation. We have like the Set 3 0 diff foundations that just give you 1 damage, like basic training or easily excited to give you 1 speed over the course of your turn. And I think that this is a very powerful 0 diff, but a very powerful 0 diff that's okay to exist. Once per turn, both players discard 1 card and draw 1 card. Notice though that you are going to do this in the order that it reads. So if you have no cards, you'll discard nothing and then you'll draw something and you don't have to discard that. So if you don't have any cards in hand to block with, go ahead and draw. But you are going to be giving your rival a benefit. They're going to get to discard a card and try, maybe discard a foundation and try and draw an attack. Or you could use this to your advantage on offense, forcing your rival to discard the block that they really wanted to use and go and pick up a random block zone. So it has some really cool benefits. I like the interaction on this card. It's not giving major stats to anything. I think it's okay to come and exist in the game. Let's look at a 0 difficulty foundation I do not want to exist in the game. Inhuman Speed, 3 low block. Response commit, after your opponent plays an ability that gains vitality, cancel its effects, your opponent loses 2 vitality. When you first read this, you might say, what is wrong with that? That seems fine. What's wrong with it is that it doesn't say non-character ability. So this would just murder Nejire. Like imagine you had 2 of these on your stage. Nejire tries to gain health, and you just say, commit. You're not going to gain that 2 health and you're going to lose 4 health now. Like this just straight up murders Nejire just for trying to be Nejire. Like I don't like cards like this that don't specify non-character ability. Because this just like wipes the floor with all of these characters that try and gain health. And then enhanced commit, this attack is plus X speed, X equals your momentum maximum 3. That's nothing to sneeze at. That's pretty powerful on its own. I think I would be okay with this card coming in if it said non-character ability. I don't know. Tell me what you guys think in the comments. Again, I never played this Yu Hakusho set 1. I've played Retro a little bit, and the old version of Standard a little bit, but I really started with Universus in My Hero Academia set 2, and right before set 3 was printed. So I don't have a lot of practical experience on these cards, but just from reading it, I don't want it back. Okay, 2 difficulty foundations, toughest punk in junior high. Flip, before you take damage from an attack, reduce the damage you would take by 3. Yes, I think this is really cool because of the timing of this card. It says before you take damage from an attack. It would be a lot worse if it said after you take damage from an attack, gain 3 health. But this says before you take damage. So, for example, if you had like half blocked Electric Jolt, and it says, and then you flip this, and now you're not taking any damage, and that jolt isn't going to the momentum. If you half block a 6 damage throw, you normally take 3 damage. Or even if you block a 6 damage throw, you would normally take 3 damage, but you flip this, you're not going to take that 3 damage. That throw's not going to go to their momentum. I think this is a really cool throw hate card, cool life gain card. Flipping a 2 diff is a pretty significant cost. A 3 mid block isn't great, but the effect is very, very strong, and I think it's one that we would like having back in the game. 2 diff True Identity. It has a rando enhance. Let's ignore that. It's unique. It says form commit. Your checks to play attacks get +1 for the rest of this turn. Basically saying that commit, your first attack isn't going to count towards progressive difficulty, right? Or like if you play like 5 attacks, this counted as like 5 foundations in some sense. Maybe 3 foundations because maybe you wouldn't have needed to commit anything on your first 2 attacks. But you get the point. It just feels a little too strong. I don't want to see this back in the game. It feels a little too strong, and it feels a little boring. Just commit, your checks to play get +1 for the rest of the turn. It's unique. I don't know. I don't really want to see it back. Okay, let's take a pause here and play a game. The Byakko Foundations. We're going to play keep, keep, cut. We got 3 of them here. We're going to keep 2 of them. We're going to cut 1 of them. I want to know in the comments, which one of these Byakko Foundations do you want to cut? Because I have been going back and forth all day on which of these that I would like to stay and to cut. Let's go through them one at a time. Energy Absorption, 2 diff, 3 low block. Once per turn, discard the top 3 cards of your deck. If you have more vitality than your opponent, this attack gets +2 or -2 damage. So on your turn, you can give an attack +2 damage. On your opponent's turn, you're going to give it -2 damage. Oh, and did you see that it has the earth symbol and fire symbol and discards the top 3 cards of your deck? Like, how much would Endeavor 3 love to have a card like this? He can mill 6 cards over a turn cycle and get 4 points of stat adjustments on damage. And then a response, and it has this little 4+ in parentheses. This is a mechanic we don't have today, but was around in Retro, meaning that you could attempt to play this response, but you would have to check a 4. If you couldn't check a 4, you couldn't play the response. After you take damage from an unblocked attack, gain 1 vitality. Only playable if your hand size is 5 or less. My brother has a Tetsu deck that is all based around damage reduction, and his deck would just love this. Sometimes you're going to put -3 damage basically on something, -2 damage from the top, and then you're going to gain a vitality on the bottom. Or, for example, that muscular deck on Earth that just made top 4 at the January webcam event. A lot of its defense was just based on damage reduction because it still wanted to take damage so that it could get a muscle counter, but wants to survive quite a long time to allow those muscle counters to continue on building. So imagine how much it would like that. There's a lot of decks in here that are just like really, really would like this card, but it does seem a little pushed at the moment. But not nearly as much as this one, the inverse of Energy Absorption, the second Saintly Beast. Breaker 1, 3 high block. Once per turn, discard the top 3 cards of your deck. This attack gets +2 or -2 speed. In my opinion, speed is always going to be a little more important than damage, and so I think that this top enhance is a little better than Energy Absorption's top enhance. -2 speed for free. You don't have to commit for the -2 speed. You don't have to flip this. That's crazy, and you can give something +2 speed on your turn. Imagine if both of these get reprinted for Endeavor 3, and he just gets to like mill 12 in one turn cycle. That's just nuts. And it has an incredible deadlock. Your opponent flips one foundation. That might not seem like much, but that's repeatable. That doesn't say once per turn. That's on every single attack you can be forcing your opponent to flip a foundation on offense and on defense. Okay, the last one, 3 difficulty foundation, Thunderous Roar, 4 mid block. Commit. Your attack gets +1 speed for each of your opponent's face down foundations. If you have 30 or more cards in your discard pile, it gets an additional +1 speed for each of your opponent's face down foundations. Basically, if you have 30 cards in your discard pile or more, you're going to be getting 2 speed for every rival face down foundation. This card would just dunk on Overhaul, Cementos, Spike, Faye, all of these characters that love to have face downs in their stage. And we're just going to say, oh, you have 5 face downs, +5 speed or +10 speed, just at a commit cost. And then if you have anything to re-ready this, it doesn't say once per turn. This is just a massive amount of speed. But it is a 3 diff, it is a 4 mid block, and it is pretty situational, right? This is something that your rival can play around. Maybe they're not playing a deck that loves having face down foundations, and then you have a 3 diff foundation that says commit for 2 speed. But I am really surprised to see this foundation not have a maximum. In the My Hero Academia, I would expect this to say max 8 or max 5, max 10. I do like this mechanic. It probably would be a little annoying to track the 30 cards in your discard pile. Like, it's going to be a little annoying to count, but I like that mechanic. It's very interesting. It's like you have to stay alive long enough for that to happen, but also once you cycle, you lose that ability. And then, maybe you eventually get back to there, but every time you cycle, you're removing cards, and so it becomes harder and harder to get 30 cards in your discard pile. I think that's a really interesting mechanic that I wouldn't mind seeing come back, but I do think it would be a little annoying to count for it. With all that said, which of these 3 foundations would you cut? Me personally, I think I would cut Second Saintly Beast. It just feels way too powerful to have in the format right now. I don't think you can reprint both of these. I wouldn't be shocked if neither of them were reprinted, but I think Energy Absorption is pretty fun, and I would like to see it come back. Okay, a 4 difficulty attack that is very fair, but also would see a lot of play. Mop Strike, 4 high 4, discard a card, your opponent discards a card, both players draw 1 card. Enhance, if your opponent's discarded a card, draw 1 card. So basically this is saying discard a card, draw 2. But it also gives your opponent the ability to discard a card from their hand, a random card from their hand, and then draw. If they don't have any cards in hand, all they do is draw, and you don't get your other draw. I think this is pretty powerful. It also has Desperation 3, meaning that if you're at less than half health, this is going to be a 3 difficulty attack instead of a 4 diff. We're not getting a lot of draw currently on weapon attacks under these symbols. Maybe like Rushing Stab, but that's like a 1 check. We have like Thousand Sheet Pierce, but that's a 2 check. So I think it would see a lot of play, similar to like Valiant Assault. It's not, anything special, just a 3 mid 4, but it does have this combo draw 2. And this one basically says discard 1, draw 2. So certified fresh, let's bring it back into the game. These symbols and weapon keyword could use a little more draw. Okay, a attack that is very unbalanced and should not come back into the game. Spirit Shotgun, 4 mid 7. This attack is 1 damage for each printed resource symbol in your card pool that matches a resource symbol with your character. Notice it doesn't say different or like it's each one. So if, you could get like +9 damage, +12 damage, that's going to make this like a 20 damage move. And then read this other enhance. If this attack is completely blocked, it still deals half damage. So basically it's a throw. It's a 20 damage throw. What are we doing here? What is this? This is way too strong. I can't believe this is even still legal. Deadlock Enhance, destroy 3 of your opponent's foundations. Just selectively blow up your opponent's stage. There's no way that this could be reprinted in today's format. Okay, a reversal attack that I think could come back. If they do decide to bring in reversal, I think this feels like a pretty appropriate power level to have a reversal at. It's a 3 diff, 3 high 2, stun 1. Your opponent discards 1 random card. If they have 3 or fewer cards in their hand, they draw 1 card. Enhance. If this attack deals damage, your opponent loses 2 vitality. So it's really like a 3 high 4. And you're going to force your rival to discard a card. So if you immediately reversal with this, and like they have 7 cards in hand, then you just force them to discard a random card. What if they end up discarding their very best attack? If you played this as a reversal, stun 1 on a reversal seems pretty strong. You're stunning your opponent's stage on their turn. So that feels really nice, but it also doesn't feel overpowered. It's just a 3 high 2. 0 high block is pretty nice. So certified fresh, if they bring reversal back, go ahead and give us bug spray. This seems fine. Do not give us Rose Whiplash. This was played on me all the time at the Retro Side event at Nationals. 4 diff, 5 low 5, already overstated. Combo reversal, this attack gets +4 speed, +4 damage, gain 4 vitality. 9 low 9 on a reversal. Enhance, on your opponent's turn, if you played this as a reversal, add 1 reversal card from your discard pile to your hand. You could just add another Rose Whiplash. Or some other reversal that's very, very strong. He had some more like defensive reversal cards in his kit. It does check it too, but it's just way, way too powerful to come into the game. Okay, 1 difficulty foundation. I have a sword. These other ones don't really have, I just put some random ones in here to close us out today. Commit, after your attack deals damage, add a face down foundation from your staging area to your hand. With set 1 leaving, Hardened Jab will also be leaving, meaning that we lose the most common way to pick up face down foundations from our stage. So I really like the idea of this foundation. You do have to deal damage for it to go off, and it does commit itself. Feels very, very appropriately costed, but also a really powerful ability picking up a face down foundation. Yeah, bring it back in the game. Okay, 2 difficulty foundation that I don't want back in the game that also deals with face down foundations. Jagan form. Joggin form. I'm not really sure how to say it. While this card is ready, you may look at your opponent's face down foundations. Come on. That's going to take so long. Can you imagine that on webcam? Hey, show me all your face downs. Now put them back. Like, this just feels like a terrible, like it's cute. I see where they were going with this, but from a practical player standpoint, this feels terrible. I don't want to always have to be waiting on my rival to look at my face down foundations, especially with so many characters right now that want a lot of your foundations to be flipped. Then it gets this response after your attack receives a speed bonus, it gets +1 damage and your opponent reveals 1 random card in their hand. That's fine, but I just don't want that static coming into the game. Get out of here with that static. Okay, a very powerful attack that I actually want to see back. Reduction, 3 diff, 1 mid, 1 mid block. Breaker 2, I love Breaker 2 attacks personally. We're losing Ice Storm on the Chaos symbol, so it's nice to get a new one. While this card is in your card pool, your other attacks get +2 speed, +2 damage, and your opponent's considered to be at Desperation. Enhance, if this attack is not blocked, add the top card of your deck to your momentum. I think this would be really cool to come back. I like this idea of 1 speed mid attacks that want to be blocked. They say, hey, if you don't block this, I am getting the top card of my deck to my momentum. It feels a little similar to like High Key Mirage from Jetburn, where, if this deals damage, I'm going to be getting a momentum and drawing a card. And all of your future cards are getting +2 speed and +2 damage. So you actually want to play this first, even though it's a 3 diff. Typically, you think of 3 diffs as like string finishers, but this one wants to be played first, and then all of your future things are going to be getting stats. I think this is pretty cool. Breaker 2 definitely would be very, very strong, but I think it's just cool. I want it back. Boulder Barrage Genbu. 5 difficulty attack, 4 mid 8, and it's a 1 check, so you know it's going to be strong. Flash. Response. After you play this attack, add the top card of your discard pile to your card pool face down as a copy of this attack and resolve it after this attack resolves. The copy of this attack gains Flash. Discard the copy after it resolves. So this basically, you get to play in your discard pile as it, and then you get to discard that. Basically, you get to play this attack twice, right? It's like a double whammy, 4 mid 8, Flash. Your rival can't do anything about it. They have to block it with something, and then it's going to play itself again. Now, this actually caught an errata. that was very confusing. Let me see if I can just move myself down here. Response: after you play this attack, add the top card of your discard pile to your card pool. Face down as a copy of this attack. Add that attack to the attack stack. Discard the copy after it resolves. Only playable if this is the first attack you have played this turn. Okay, that was the errata. Before I had read this, I had never heard of the attack stack. Apparently it was something in the rule book that typically wasn't printed on cards, and it was just to make like effects like reversals and multiple work. I hate the sound of it. Attack stack, it sounds complicated. It was only playable as your first attack to try and gate it a little more. I just think it's way too complex worded. This sounds very confusing to me, being an MHA only player basically, and having started Universus with MHA. And so I just don't really want to see a card like this come back. That just seems worded very confusing, when today we simply have Echo. And that is going to do, so yeah, I don't want to see this one come back. And that's going to do it for me today. That was 21 cards. I will be doing the remaining 42 cards over the course of this weekend. So keep an eye out because I will be releasing part 2 of this video shortly.